Today I'll be showing you my first semester sketchbook on my degree course. So with the brief being separation, I started off by thinking about things that have been separated from their natural environment, like the sunflower separated from the ground and put in the vase. So then I looked at Mondrian to experiment with separating colours. So after this, my tutor told us all to make a collage using only newspaper and pick out the things that link to separation, and this is how I got the idea to look at North Korea. One thing I find really helpful is to make a few collages on the idea that I'm going to focus on, and it helps me come up with more ideas. I then progressed into researching defectors' experiences and also using inspiration from Dadaism to try and make Kim Jong-un look as stupid as possible. So then I tried out using Photoshop. You can obviously tell it was my first time using Photoshop, and then I progressed it into a bottle collage. I chose to use a plastic bottle because they don't have them in North Korea, and although they're not the best for the environment, I thought they would be really symbolic to show how separated North Korea is from the outside world. I've just included this page here because it doesn't fit in the frame of the recording. So at this point I've moved on to playing with the image of barbed wire, experimenting with it, stitching it, painting it, drawing it in different materials. So I pushed this further by trying continuous line drawings and incorporating the barbed wire into those drawings. I was actually really pleased with the outcome of these experiments. So as you've probably noticed, there's very minimal annotation in this sketchbook, and that's because I had a whole separate book to put my annotation in, and I would recommend if you write quite a lot, it would be good to do the same thing. I then took inspiration from my previous drawing and tried to stitch an area of it, and I'm really pleased with how that turned out. I also made a mini book of research about shapes and their connotations. After researching a lot about defectors' experiences, I felt that there was always a missing piece, something that the defectors had to let go of in order to escape, and this is why I started to incorporate the missing jigsaw piece in the face. I then made collages out of things that a North Korean citizen would likely never get to do or get to see if they continued living in North Korea. I felt like this would effectively show just how restricted these people are. This then progressed into thinking about all of the different layers that a North Korean citizen would have to get through in order to escape. I then moved on to looking at multiples, relating to how the citizens are essentially all forced to think the same as each other and hold the same beliefs. I then tried to explore the idea of presenting brokenness and fragmented identity. Here I'm just experimenting with different shapes, seeing how impactful each shape is. So by this point I'm experimenting with combining a lot more media. So this includes lino printing, oil pastels, paint and my own edits. These are some more experimental samples where I've lino printed, stitched into them, drawn over them. So in my first semester I actually did so much work that I produced 2 sketchbooks, but don't feel pressured. I've not produced 2 sketchbooks since. I just really got into this project. So here I invented this thing that allows me to experiment with different backgrounds, different compositions, but with the same drawings. And to be honest, I'm actually pretty impressed with how I managed to come up with this idea. So I would take pictures of my favourite compositions and then put them into Photoshop and edit them. These are some of the edits I managed to make from the different layouts. Some of them I collaged on top of and stitched into. So here I got a bit obsessed with lino printing, and to be honest I think most of them came out terrible, but you know, it's experimentation so it's okay. I really enjoyed experimenting with cutting different shapes out of my pages and seeing how they'd look against each print. So here I began to have a bit of a nightmare with the ink. It wouldn't dry, so I had to put greaseproof paper over it. So if you're going to use block printing ink, I would make sure to put paper over the top of it because all your pages will stick together. I went to an exhibition by a textile artist and was really inspired by that. So I then moved on to a more textiles based approach. Here I'm looking at building up texture for a collage. Here I was trying to take inspiration from the North Korean military uniform and their colour schemes. I've also included some research from the Industrial Museum and some drawings. And now onto my final pieces. I loved making my first bottle collage, so I decided to make 2 more, so there'd be a set of 3, and I still think that this is one of my favourite final pieces that I've ever made. So here's just a bit of planning for my third final piece. I was also really happy with the outcome of this one. It was put in a deep set frame and there were like 3D layers in it. And this is my last final piece, which I definitely think is the weakest, and it was made from lots of lino prints. Thank you for watching and I hope you all enjoyed.